The sun beat down upon the village of Umuasasai, a cluster of mud-walled huts with brown, thatched roofs nestled amidst the emerald green of the Imo State rainforest. The air hummed with the sounds of life, the chatter of women winnowing rice, the distant blows of machetes on wood, and the laughter of children chasing stray chickens through the dusty paths. It was a picture of communal harmony, a rhythm as old as the ancestors themselves, where every person had a role that contributed to the whole. The village thrived because of this shared commitment to work and the sacred laws that governed them. In the heart of this village lived Dike, a young man of 22 years whose physical strength was a stark contrast to the weakness of his spirit. His lean, angular face, with its high cheekbones and strong jaw, was often set in a permanent scowl of dissatisfaction, and clouded with envy as he watched his neighbors return from their farms with baskets full of yams and cocoa yams. He believed the world owed him more than his hands were willing to earn. Dike's own plot of land lay on the outskirts of the village, a pathetic sight compared to the flourishing fields around it. His farming tools, a hoe and a machete, lay rusting by the door of his hut and used for many weeks. He saw the success of others not as an inspiration, but as a personal insult, a constant reminder of his own failings that he was too proud to acknowledge. His thoughts were a turbulent river of excuses. He blamed the poor quality of his soil, the harshness of the sun. He convinced himself that the hard-working villagers were merely lucky, refusing to see the dawn-to-dusk labor that filled their barns. This internal narrative of blame fortified his laziness, building a wall between him and the prosperity that discipline could bring. As evening fell and cooking fires began to send aromatic smoke into the purple sky, Dike sat alone at the entrance of his hut. The joyful sounds of families settling down for the evening meal only deepened his isolation. It was in this fertile ground of envy and idleness that a dark seed of a plan began to take root in his mind. He would not wait for the harvest he did not plant. He would simply take what he felt he deserved. The moon, a mere sliver of silver, provided little light as a deep, velvety darkness enveloped Umuasasai. The village was silent, save for the chorus of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl. It was an hour when all honest men and women were asleep, recovering their strength for the next day's labor. But Dike was awake, his heart pounding not with fear, but with a frantic, illicit energy that drowned out the voice of his conscience. He moved like a shadow, a wraith slipping between the huts. He had chosen a dark navy blue wrapper and a black singlet, clothes that would make him invisible in the night. Each rustle of a leaf sounded like a thunderclap to his ears, and he froze often, his eyes, wide and gleaming with nervousness, scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. His destination was the farm of Matsi Okoro, the most prosperous farmer in the clan. When he reached the edge of the field, he paused. The neat, organized rows of yam mounds stood in silent testimony to Okoro's diligence. He found a particularly large mound and fell to his knees. Using his hands, he dug into the soft, rich soil, the dirt caking under his fingernails. With a final, forceful tug, he pulled it free from the earth, a large, healthy yam that was heavy in his hands. Holding the stolen yam, he felt a momentary thrill of victory. But it was short-lived, quickly replaced by a cold, sinking feeling in his gut. The yam no longer felt like food. It felt like a weight, an accusation. Without looking back, he clutched his prize to his chest and retreated from the farm, disappearing back into the shadows from whence he came, leaving only a dark, freshly dug hole as evidence of his crime. The next morning, Matsi Okoro went to his farm as he did every day, his sturdy leather sandals crunching on the path. The 58-year-old man had a round, weathered face usually marked by laugh lines, but today it was set in a grim mask. His dark brown eyes, normally kind, scanned his fields with the practiced gaze of a man who knew every inch of his land. It did not take him long to find the violation, the gaping, dark hole where a yam should have been. He did not cry out in anger. This was not merely a theft of food. It was a theft of labor, a violation of the trust that bound the clan together. It was an affront to the earth goddess, Allah, and the local guardian, Agbara Ofo. He knew that such an act, if left unaddressed, could bring misfortune upon the entire village. His response must be measured and ritualistic. Turning away from the scar on his land, Matsi Okoro walked back to the village with a heavy but determined pace. He needed the wisdom of the man who served as the bridge between the people and the spirit world, the interpreter of the sacred laws. He went not to the village square to raise an alarm, but directly to the isolated hut of the priest, Izmuo. Izmuo, a man of 76 years, listened in silence. His gaunt, deeply wrinkled face was impassive, but his light, piercing eyes saw the truth of the situation clearly. He was dressed in a simple white loincloth, his chest bare. After Okoro finished, the old priest nodded slowly. The crime required a formal accusation before the community. He instructed the town crier to summon the entire village to the central square. As the villagers gathered, a hushed tension filled the air. Izmuo emerged from his hut now clad in his full priestly regalia, a white wrapper, a necklace of sacred seeds, a feather cap, and holding the sacred, carved Ofo staff. He stood before them, an embodiment of ancestral authority. He must come forward before the third market week, or the spirit will find its own justice. The words hung in the air, a deadly promise. When Dike heard the priest's proclamation, a cold hand seemed to clutch his heart. He was standing at the back of the crowd, and he instinctively shrank back, hoping to disappear. His lean face, usually stubborn, now showed pure fear, feeling the community's eyes on him. The weight of the stolen yam, now hidden in his hut, felt immense. He retreated to the confines of his home, a place that once felt like a refuge but now felt like a prison. The single, large yam sat in the corner, seeming to pulse with a malevolent energy. "They have no proof," he whispered to himself, his voice shaky. "It is just one yam. No one saw me." He repeated these phrases like a mantra, building a fragile wall of denial against the towering dread that threatened to crush him. His pride became his jailer. For days, life in the village continued, but a palpable tension lingered. Dike tried to act normally, but every smile felt like a grimace, and every casual conversation felt like an inquisition. He avoided Matsi Okoro and the priest, taking long, circuitous routes through the village. He ate the stolen yam, but it provided no nourishment, tasting only of ash and guilt. On the 11th day, the judgment of Agbara Ofo began. Dike awoke not to the morning sun, but to an unnatural cold that had taken root deep within his bones. It was a chill that no blanket could warm, as if he had swallowed a piece of the sacred stone itself. His dark eyes were wide with a terror that was no longer just psychological, but physical. As the 12th night fell, a powerful, invisible force pulled him from his hut. Under the glow of the full moon, he stumbled, barefoot and clad only in a white wrapper, towards the forbidden forest, a man no longer in control of his own body, walking willingly to his fate. At dawn, a group of villagers led by Izmuo and Matsi Okoro found him. He was lying prone, his body stretched out as if in supplication, before the silent, imposing black stone of Agbara Ofo. His limbs were stiff, and his skin was cold to the touch, yet there was not a single mark or wound on his body. There was no mourning for Dike. The villagers looked on with a solemn understanding, not of sadness, but of grim confirmation. The law of the land had been upheld. The cosmic balance, disrupted by his theft, had been restored by the swift and unerring justice of the Elusi. To mourn him would be to question the righteousness of the very force that protected their community from chaos. Izmuo, now dressed in a simple, rough-textured, undyed linen wrapper for the rite of cleansing, stepped forward, and drawing patterns with white chalk, Nzu, on the ground around the body and the stone. The body of Dike was taken away and buried without the usual fanfare of a clansman's funeral. It was a quiet, discreet affair, a necessary act of disposal rather than a celebration of life. The village, though shaken, was ultimately unified by the event. It served as a powerful, unforgettable lesson to every man, woman, and child on the price of breaking the covenant. And the stone, Agbara Ofo, remained in its sacred grove. It was cold, smooth, and silent, as it had been for centuries. The sun rose and set over it, the rains fell upon it, and the forest grew around it. It was a permanent, immovable fixture in the life of the village, a silent judge, a relentless guardian, a reminder that the law of the land is indeed older and far greater than any single man's desire.